The Galactic Council always believed they had mapped every important star system. Their atlas stretched across countless worlds. It showed empires that were millions of years old, strange civilizations made of crystals and planets full of endless oceans. The atlas was not only a map, it was a symbol of their power. If a world was in the atlas, it belonged to the Council. If it was not in the atlas, it did not matter. At least that was what they told themselves. But there was one place they never spoke about. On the edge of a quiet spiral arm, the atlas ended suddenly. The chart showed nothing but empty space. Officially, it was forgotten. Unofficially, it was feared. Some called it the Forbidden Spiral. Others called it the Silent Zone. For generations, no one dared to ask why. That silence broke the day a young man named Daniel Hayes arrived at the Council chambers. Daniel was from Earth, a planet the Council had only recently recognized as useful. To most members of the Council, humans were still new and unimportant. They were considered loud, reckless, and short-lived. But Daniel was different. He was a cartographer, a star mapper who loved exploring the unknown. His dark hair was messy from travel, and his eyes were sharp with curiosity. He carried with him a data pad full of coordinates. These coordinates showed stars and paths the Council claimed did not exist. He stood before the alien leaders, nervous but steady, and told them their atlas was incomplete. At his side stood Claire Morgan. Claire was a linguist from Earth. She had spent years studying alien languages and old stellar scripts. Her hair was tied back simply, and she carried a small notebook where she often wrote translations. Claire was calm, thoughtful, and precise. She had helped Daniel decode the strange writings they had found on distant asteroids and ruins. Together, they had discovered something impossible. The markings suggested humans had been present in places far beyond Earth, in systems the Council had left blank. Claire told the Council delegates that she had matched these writings to the oldest dialects on Earth, and the similarity was too close to ignore. If she was right, then humans had a history the Council never knew about. The chamber fell into whispers. The alien delegates shifted in unease. A tall, scaled creature with golden eyes hissed a warning. A feathered delegate clicked its beak nervously. The crystalline beings pulsed with dim light, showing agitation. To claim that humans had mapped beyond the atlas was not only foolish but dangerous. The atlas was sacred. It represented order. It told the galaxy who was important and who was not. If humans had found something outside of it, then everything the Council believed could collapse. Daniel did not back down. He explained how he and Claire had followed trails of signals that led beyond the known edge. They had traveled aboard small research vessels, often risking their lives in unstable systems. They had found ruins on barren moons, strange stargates, and fragments of technology that were older than anything in the atlas. He showed images of giant structures floating in the dark, built with designs that felt strangely human. The Council accused him of lying, of fabricating his findings to win glory. But Daniel only held his datapad higher and played a recording. In the recording, a voice spoke in a language long dead, yet one that Claire translated easily into English. The voice said, "Here begins the path of humankind." The chamber went silent. No one had expected to hear such words. Claire explained that she had found the same phrase carved on multiple ruins. It appeared to be a warning, or perhaps a declaration. If true, it meant humans had claimed space beyond the atlas long before the Council was ever formed. The implications were terrifying. The Council had always believed humans were new arrivals, just one more species among thousands. But what if humans had been here first? What if they had left a mark that stretched farther than anyone knew? Daniel remembered the first time he and Claire had seen one of the ruins. They had been exploring a dead moon orbiting a red star. The place was quiet, airless, and lifeless. Their small ship had nearly crashed because of the unstable gravity. But there, hidden under layers of dust, they found a set of carved symbols. Claire had spent hours brushing them clean, her hands trembling as she read. The letters were not perfect, but they were close to the oldest scripts on Earth. She whispered the translation aloud, and Daniel felt a chill. It was as if the moon itself was speaking to them, telling them they had no idea how deep their own past reached. Back in the Council chamber, some delegates demanded punishment. They called Daniel a liar and Claire a manipulator. They said Earth should be sanctioned for spreading dangerous lies. Others, however, were not so certain. Counselor Vera, a tall alien with scaled skin, raised her voice. She said that if the humans were telling the truth, then the Council needed to know. Knowledge was power, If the Atlas was wrong, then the Council's power was at risk. But Councillor Draxum of the Core Worlds argued loudly that such talk was heresy. He said the humans should be silenced before their word spread. Daniel stood quietly as the Council argued. He felt small in the great chamber, surrounded by towering beings from across the galaxy. But he also felt something else, pride, determination. He knew he was right. He had seen things the Council refused to see. He had stood on forgotten worlds and touched the stones carved by hands that might have been human. He remembered Claire's voice as she whispered translations, her eyes wide with both fear and wonder. He remembered the stars they had crossed, the dangers they had survived. He knew that this was bigger than him, bigger than Earth. It was about truth. Claire placed a hand on Daniel's arm, steadying him. She whispered that the Council would never believe easily, but that did not matter. What mattered was that they had begun something. They had opened a door that could never be closed again. Somewhere beyond the maps, beyond the edge of the Atlas, lay answers that would change everything. As the Council session broke into chaos, Daniel and Claire exchanged a look. They knew they could not wait for permission. If the Council refused to search, then humans would have to do it themselves. There was more to find, more ruins, more paths, and more secrets. Earth's story was not what it seemed, and the galaxy, whether it wanted to or not, was about to learn that where the Atlas ended, humanity began. The Council chamber did not calm after Daniel and Claire presented their findings. Instead, the noise only grew louder. Delegates argued, their voices rising in anger and fear. Some shouted that humans should be punished for daring to question the Atlas. Others whispered that maybe there was truth to the claims. The Council was not united, and that division made the chamber feel heavy with tension. Daniel stood silently watching the chaos he had caused. He knew that words alone would not convince them. Evidence was needed, and more than what they had already shown. Claire stayed close, her eyes moving carefully across the crowd, studying each reaction. While the Council argued outside in the docking bays, Captain Laura Mitchell waited. She was the commander of the Horizon, a starship known for exploration and resilience. Laura was tall, with steady eyes that had seen many dangers in uncharted space. Her crew was made up of people who were not afraid to take risks, people who wanted to go beyond the safe routes of the Atlas. She had been listening to Daniel and Claire for weeks, and though skeptical at first, she had seen enough of their discoveries to believe there was more. When Daniel and Claire left the chamber after the session, Laura was waiting for them. She asked them one simple question. "Are you ready to prove it?" Daniel looked at Claire and she gave a slow nod. They both knew this was their chance. Words in the Council chamber were not enough. They had to show the truth directly, by going beyond the edge of the Atlas themselves. Laura agreed to take them. The Horizon prepared to leave, and within days they set out into the stars, heading toward the blank spaces no one dared to chart. The journey was not easy. As they left the mapped zones, they began to encounter strange phenomena. The Horizon's instruments detected unstable wormholes, storms of radiation, and regions where gravity bent in ways that seemed unnatural. Laura's crew worked tirelessly, adjusting course, repairing damage, and keeping the ship steady. Daniel spent long hours studying the maps he had compiled. He would compare them with the Horizon's real-time scans, his brow furrowed as he searched for matches. Claire focused on the symbols and scripts they had copied from ruins. She believed there was a pattern, a hidden instruction within the markings that guided them safely through the dangers. One evening, while the ship floated in the silence between stars, Daniel noticed something. On the map, he found a set of coordinates marked with a symbol Claire had once translated as threshold. When the Horizon arrived, they found an ancient structure drifting near a small dead planet. It was massive, larger than the ship, and shaped like a gate. Its metal was dark and scarred, yet it pulsed faintly with energy. The crew stared in awe. This was not just debris, it was technology, old and powerful. Claire studied the carvings along its surface. Her fingers traced the lines, her eyes wide. "It's human," she whispered. "Or something so close it cannot be coincidence." Daniel's heart pounded. He remembered the recordings, the ruins, the warnings. Here was more proof. The Horizon scanned the structure, and the readings made the crew uneasy. The technology was not only functional, but it was connected to something else, as if it were part of a vast network. Their discovery did not go unnoticed. As the Horizon lingered near the gate, enemy ships appeared. They belonged to the Kalthari Collective. enforcers of the Atlas who hunted down anyone that dared to explore beyond it. Sleek and sharp, their vessels cut through space with purpose. They surrounded the horizon and demanded surrender. Captain Laura Mitchell stood her ground. She was not one to give up easily. She ordered evasive maneuvers, and the horizon dodged between enemy fire. Daniel worked quickly, cross-checking maps, while Claire shouted translations of symbols that might reveal hidden commands on the ancient gate. Laura's crew fought bravely, and though the horizon was smaller, it was faster and unpredictable. Human tactics were different from alien warfare. Laura thought like no alien commander, and her moves were wild and clever. They managed to slip through the blockade, but not without damage. Sparks filled the corridors. Alarms echoed through the ship, and exhaustion weighed heavy on everyone. Still, they had escaped, and the gate remained behind them, its mystery unsolved. As they pushed deeper into the blank zone, the discoveries became more frequent. They found barren moons with ruins half buried under dust. They found derelict stations floating in silence, still carrying faint signals in patterns Claire could translate. They found writings etched into walls, always repeating the same theme. This was the domain of humankind. Claire explained her findings to the crew, her voice steady but filled with wonder. She showed how the words connected to Earth's oldest dialects. Each time the crew grew more unsettled. It was not only strange, it was frightening. If these ruins were truly human, then the entire history of humanity had been hidden or forgotten. Daniel began to notice another detail. The maps he had studied were not just navigation charts. They were layered with codes, instructions, and even warnings. Some symbols matched strategies used in battle. Others showed signs for caution, as if guiding future travelers through danger. It became clear that the maps were not just for exploration. They were also a message left behind, a message meant only for humans. The crew started asking questions. How could humans, a species considered so new and small, have created such things? Why had no one in the council spoken of this before? And why was the Atlas cut off exactly where these discoveries began? Each question weighed heavily on their minds. Claire confessed that she was afraid. The ruins felt too intentional, as if they had been left for someone to find at the right moment. She feared they were walking into something much larger than they understood. One night, as the horizon drifted near a dead world, Daniel stood at the observation deck. He looked at the stars stretching out beyond the glass, endless and cold. Claire joined him, her notebook in hand. She admitted that the translations made her uneasy. The words spoke of return, of awakening, of a time when humans would reclaim their place. Daniel listened silently, his thoughts heavy. He wondered if they were truly ready for what they were uncovering. Far behind them, the council grew restless. News of the Horizon's journey had leaked. Rumors spread quickly across civilizations. Whispers spoke of humans exploring where the Atlas ended. Fear began to rise. Civilizations that had once ignored humans now watched them carefully. The council debated in panic. Some called for fleets to be sent after the Horizon. Others argued that suppression would only prove the humans' claims. The galaxy was shifting and no one could stop it. On the horizon, Daniel, Claire, and Laura knew the truth was only beginning to reveal itself. Every ruin, every stargate, every signal was a piece of a puzzle. And the puzzle was leading them to one conclusion. Humanity was not what the galaxy believed. Humanity was something older, deeper, and far more dangerous. The Horizon pressed forward into the unknown, unaware of just how much the galaxy would soon fear the secrets they carried. The Horizon continued its journey deeper into the blank space where the Atlas ended. The crew felt both excitement and unease. Every new discovery proved that the Council had hidden or ignored something far greater than anyone imagined. But each discovery also raised questions that no one could answer. Daniel Hayes spent most of his time in the navigation room, studying the star maps he had brought. His maps seemed to predict the strange places they found. He noticed hidden layers within them, coded instructions that guided their path. Claire Morgan, always with her notebook, worked on translating the carvings and signals they uncovered. She grew quieter each day, her face pale as the meanings became clear. Captain Laura Mitchell kept her focus on the crew, trying to hold them together as the unknown pressed down on them. It was Daniel who first noticed the pattern in the ambushes. Each time they found a ruin or gate, Kalthari ships were not far behind. The collective always seemed to know where the Horizon was going. Laura realized they had been marked as a target. The Kalthari were determined to stop them from exploring. One morning, as the ship slipped through a dust field near a dead star, a fleet of Kalthari patrol ships appeared. They blocked every route forward. Their message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. Laura did not hesitate. She ordered her crew to prepare for evasive action. The horizon could not match the Kaltharian firepower, but it was faster and unpredictable. Human tactics were strange to alien minds. Laura twisted the ship through the dust clouds, making sudden moves that no algorithm could predict. The crew held on as the horizon darted past enemy fire. Daniel worked quickly, using his maps to chart a hidden path through the dust. Claire shouted translations from symbols she recognized, which warned of safe routes. The horizon escaped again, but not without damage. Panels sparked, engines strained, and the crew grew tired from the constant running. After the battle, they came upon something that made the struggle worth it. A derelict station drifted in the void, its surface scarred but still standing. As they entered, the silence was heavy. The air was thin and the lights flickered faintly. Carvings lined the walls, and Claire moved carefully from one to the next. She whispered translations, her voice trembling. The carvings spoke of a boundary, a place where humanity had declared its domain. The words were not alien, they were old human dialects. "Here begins humanity's domain," Claire read aloud. The crew froze. The phrase was the same as the one they had found earlier. It was not a single mistake or coincidence. It was a truth repeated again and again across different worlds. Daniel felt the weight of the discovery. He looked at the carvings, feeling a strange connection. He wondered if their ancestors had walked here, if they had left these warnings behind. Claire explained that the language was not just similar, it was almost identical to Earth's oldest records. It was as if the same people who had built the station had also shaped Earth's history. The crew whispered among themselves, nervous and unsettled. The ruins were no longer just ruins. They were evidence of something terrifying. Humanity had been here long before the Council. As the horizon continued, the discoveries grew more dangerous. They found moons where entire landscapes had been carved with symbols, massive warnings that could be seen from orbit. They found stargates that activated faintly when the horizon approached, pulsing with energy that seemed to recognize them. One night, Daniel dreamed of the ruins. He saw flashes of war, ships burning in space, and voices calling for humanity to return. He woke in a sweat, his heart racing. He told Claire, and she admitted she had dreamed something similar. It was as if the ruins were calling to them, stirring memories buried deep in their blood. The Council, far away, grew desperate. News of the horizon's survival spread across the galaxy. Whispers of the first people reached even the most distant colonies. Civilizations began to fear that humans were not new at all, but something ancient. The Council debated in panic. Should they crush humanity before the truth spread, or should they try to control them? Fleets were prepared, envoys were sent, but the rumors only grew. Every whisper spoke of humans as the missing piece of history, the shadow behind the Atlas. On the horizon, the tension grew. The crew feared that every step forward brought them closer to danger. Claire's translation spoke of return, of awakening, of a time when humans would reclaim what they had lost. She warned that the writings felt like instructions, as if someone long ago had planned for this moment. Daniel listened, his mind heavy with doubt and wonder. He believed the maps were guiding them, not by chance but by design. Each coordinate led to the next, forming a path that only humans could follow. One evening, the horizon arrived at a planet orbiting a dying sun. The world was barren, its surface cracked and lifeless. Yet beneath the surface, they found a hidden chamber. Inside was a mechanism that pulsed faintly with energy, even after countless ages. Daniel approached it carefully, his datapad buzzing with strange signals. Claire translated the carvings nearby. "When the time comes, awaken the path." Her voice shook as she read. Daniel touched the controls and the chamber trembled. Energy surged through the planet, rising into the sky. Across the system, ancient stargates lit up, their lights flashing like a signal. The crew watched in awe and fear as the galaxy itself seemed to awaken. Claire whispered that the Atlas had not ended at Earth's border by accident. It had ended because humanity had drawn the line. They had sealed away their empire, their weapons, and their legacy. The Council had built its power in ignorance, never knowing they lived in the shadow of humans. Now that shadow was stirring again. Daniel looked at the maps and realized the final coordinates were not far. The path was leading them somewhere important. He felt both dread and determination. Whatever lay ahead, it would change everything. The horizon set course for the next point on the map, unaware of how many eyes were now watching. The Kalthari were relentless. The Council was desperate, and entire civilizations were waiting in fear. The crew of the Horizon carried the secret of humanity's past, and soon the galaxy would know. Where the Atlas ended, humanity began, and the galaxy was about to learn why that truth had been hidden for so long. The Horizon traveled deeper into the regions no one from the Council dared to enter. The crew knew they were far beyond the reach of the Atlas now. The stars seemed different, older and colder. It felt as if they were stepping into a forgotten memory of the galaxy. Daniel Hayes spent every hour looking at the strange coordinates on his maps. He noticed that the symbols did not just lead them forward. They seemed to match the ruins they had already seen. The maps were like a puzzle, guiding them step by step. Claire Morgan grew quiet as she translated more of the writings. The words carried heavy meanings: awaken, return, guardians, and legacy. She admitted to Daniel that the writings felt less like history and more like instructions waiting for someone to follow them. Captain Laura Mitchell tried to keep the crew steady. Every discovery made them proud but also more nervous. They knew the Council was growing desperate to stop them. The whispers across the galaxy had already begun. Entire civilizations were talking about humans as the first people, the ones who had been here long before anyone else. The crew felt the weight of those whispers on their shoulders. They were not only explorers anymore. They were the messengers of something much larger. Their ship finally reached a planet orbiting a dying sun. The planet looked dead from orbit, its surface gray and cracked, but scans showed something beneath the crust, something alive with energy. The Horizon landed on the surface, and Daniel led a small team underground. They found tunnels carved with symbols, glowing faintly as if they had been waiting for someone to arrive. The tunnels led them into a massive chamber. At the center stood a structure shaped like a machine, ancient but still working. It pulsed softly with power, sending signals that echoed through the ground. Daniel touched his datapad and saw the signals match the coordinates on his maps. Claire translated the carvings along the walls. Her voice trembled as she read, "When the time comes, awaken the path. Let the guardians rise. Let the stars remember." The words made the chamber feel heavy. Daniel stepped closer to the machine. His hand hovered over the control panel, unsure if he should act. Claire whispered that the writings were not warnings but commands. Someone long ago had expected this moment. Daniel pressed the control. The chamber rumbled. Energy surged upward through the planet, shaking the ground. On the horizon, alarms blared as power surged through their instruments. The sky above the planet lit up as beams of light burst from the crust into space. Faraway stargates that had been silent for ages came alive. Across dozens of systems, ancient beacons pulsed with energy, each flashing in the same rhythm. The crew watched in silence as the galaxy itself seemed to wake up. Claire's face went pale. She realized the truth. The Atlas had not ended at Earth by mistake. It had ended there because humanity had drawn the border. They had sealed away their empire and their technology. The Council had never known because it was not their secret to know. Humanity had hidden it, and now Daniel had unlocked it again. The Council received the news almost immediately. Fleets were sent to stop the Horizon, but it was already too late. The beacons were active, and the signals spread faster than any ship could travel. Civilizations across the galaxy saw the lights in the sky. Fear gripped them. They whispered about the return of the first people, about the old masters who had once ruled before the Council existed. Some believed the humans would save them. Others feared the humans would destroy them. But all of them knew the galaxy would never be the same again. On the horizon, the crew struggled with what they had unleashed. Laura kept her voice firm as she ordered the crew to stay calm, but her eyes showed worry. She asked Daniel if he understood what he had done. Daniel admitted he had not expected such a reaction. He only wanted to prove the truth. Now the truth was spreading beyond their control. Claire confessed she was afraid. The writing spoke of guardians, but what if the guardians were not peaceful? What if they were weapons? Soon after, the Horizon detected movement across nearby systems. Ships that had not moved in millennia were stirring. Automated fleets awoke, rising from hidden bases under moons and drifting asteroids. They formed into perfect formations, waiting for commands. Their hulls were scarred with age, but their power readings were far stronger than anything the Council had ever built. The crew stared in silence as entire fleets prepared themselves as if no time had passed. Daniel looked again at the maps. He saw that the next coordinates pointed not outward but back toward familiar space. The final path led to Earth. He felt his chest tighten. It was as if everything they had found was leading back to where humanity had begun. Claire read the last set of carvings she had translated. They said, "The circle must close. The Guardians will return to their origin. From there, the stars will remember their masters." The words made the crew uneasy. If the Guardians were heading to Earth, what would they do when they arrived? The Council panicked. Their fleets tried to intercept the ancient ships, but they were no match. The automated warships ignored all attempts at communication. They moved with precision, their engines glowing with strange energy. The Council sent desperate messages to Earth demanding answers. They begged humanity to explain what was happening. But Earth was as confused as everyone else. Leaders scrambled, governments argued, and fear spread among ordinary people. Humanity on Earth had not expected this any more than the Horizon had. Daniel stood alone in the observation deck, watching the lights of the awakening fleets spread across the stars. He felt both proud and afraid. He had wanted to prove that humanity was more than the Council believed. Now he had done it, but the cost was higher than he imagined. Claire joined him quietly. She told him that she feared they had awakened something that could not be stopped. Daniel admitted he felt the same, but he also believed they could not turn back now. The truth was out and the galaxy would have to face it. Captain Laura Mitchell gathered the crew. She told them they had a choice. They could guide what was happening, or they could let it unfold without them. If they guided it, they might prevent disaster. If they stepped back, the galaxy could fall into chaos. The crew voted, and most agreed they had to act. They had started this, and they had to see it through. Laura gave the order to set course for Earth, following the final coordinates. As the Horizon jumped through space, Daniel looked at the star maps one last time. He realized they were not just maps. They were messages from the past, left for him and others like him. Messages written by humans who had lived long before the Council, humans who had shaped the galaxy and then chosen to disappear. Those humans had trusted the future to remember them. And now, through Daniel and his crew, they were being remembered. The Horizon moved forward, carrying with it the weight of the past and the fear of the future. Behind them, the galaxy trembled as fleets of forgotten warships filled the stars. Ahead of them, Earth waited, holding the final secret. Where the Atlas ended, humanity began, and now the galaxy would learn why that truth had been hidden, and why the return of humanity terrified them all. The Horizon moved swiftly through the dark, its engines burning as it followed the final coordinates on Daniel Hayes's maps. The crew was tense. They had seen fleets of ancient warships awaken, had seen beacons flash across the galaxy, and had heard the whispers spreading through every civilization. They knew the galaxy was trembling in fear. Captain Laura Mitchell stood firm on the bridge, her voice calm even though her eyes betrayed her worry. She knew the path they followed was not only leading them deeper into danger, but also back home. The final destination was Earth. Daniel sat in the navigation chamber staring at the maps that had guided them this far. His hand moved across the screen, tracing lines that connected stars like a web. He noticed that the coordinates no longer spread outward. Every path bent inward, circling back to the same point, Earth. He felt a heavy weight in his chest. These maps were not only routes, they were a message. Humanity's ancestors had planned this long ago. Claire Morgan joined him, her notebook open as always. She read the last translations aloud, her voice quiet but steady. The writings spoke of guardians returning to their origin, of a circle that must close, and of the stars remembering their masters. Claire admitted she feared what that meant. If the guardians were heading to Earth, then Earth was not only the end of the path but the beginning of something greater. As the Horizon drew closer to Earth, the Council fleets tried to intercept them. Dozens of ships blocked their path, their weapons ready. Counselor Draxam had ordered their capture at any cost. To him, humans had become too dangerous. But the Horizon was not alone. Automated warships that had awakened from slumber appeared out of the void, massive vessels of forgotten design. They moved with perfect formation and incredible power. The Council fleets opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched the ancient hulls. The Guardians responded with precision strikes, disabling entire fleets in moments. The Horizon slipped through the chaos, protected not by choice but by design. The ancient ships ignored them, as if recognizing them as allies. Laura's crew stared in awe as the galaxy's greatest fleets were humbled in minutes. The horizon finally reached Earth's orbit. But what they found shocked them. Hidden deep in the oceans, buried under mountains and concealed in the crust, enormous structures began to awaken. Towers of metal rose from the seas. Energy fields pulsed across continents. The planet itself seemed to come alive. Daniel realized Earth had never been just a homeworld. It had been the center of something vast, something sealed away until now. Claire translated one last message carved on a structure they scanned. The Guardians returned to the cradle. From here the stars will remember. On Earth, fear spread quickly. Governments scrambled to understand what was happening. Ordinary people watched the skies as lights flashed across the night. Some saw it as the end of the world. Others saw it as a rebirth. Humanity on Earth was caught between pride and terror. They had always thought themselves young, reaching slowly into space. Now they realized they were waking something ancient that had always been theirs. The Council sent desperate messages demanding answers. Delegates pleaded with Earth to stop what had been unleashed, but it was too late. The Guardians moved with their own purpose. They formed defensive lines around Earth, their weapons ready but silent. They did not attack. They only waited. Daniel believed they were waiting for instructions only humans could give. But no one knew how to command them. Claire whispered that maybe they were not meant to be commanded at all. Maybe they were waiting for humanity to prove who they really were. Inside the horizon, the crew debated their role. Some believed they should try to control the Guardians, to use them to protect Earth. Others feared that using them as weapons would destroy everything. Laura listened quietly, then told her crew that humanity faced a choice. They could guide this moment toward peace, or they could let fear turn it into war. She reminded them that they had started this journey seeking truth, not conquest. Daniel walked alone through the ship, thinking of everything they had seen. He remembered the ruins, the carvings, the words repeated over and over. Awaken, return, Guardians, legacy. He realized the truth. Humanity had not been forgotten. Humanity had chosen to forget itself, to step back and let others rise. But the time of silence was over. Now the galaxy would have to face the truth of what humans had once been. The Council, broken and desperate, sent one final message to Earth. They did not demand this time. They begged. They begged humanity not to destroy the galaxy with the power that had returned. They admitted their fear, admitted that the Atlas had always been incomplete. They knew now why. The Atlas ended where humans began, because no one could map what humans had once controlled. Daniel stood at the observation deck with Claire beside him. They watched Earth glowing with energy as the Guardians formed a shield across the skies. Claire asked him what would happen next. Daniel answered quietly that it depended on humanity. The past had returned, but the future was theirs to decide. Laura joined them, her voice calm but strong. She said that humans could not run from what they had awakened. They had to face it with wisdom, not with arrogance. The horizon floated silently above Earth as the galaxy watched. The Guardians stood ready, fleets of impossible power waiting in silence. Across the stars, civilizations held their breath. Would humans rise as conquerors or as guardians of their own? The answer had not yet come. But one truth was clear. The galaxy would never again see humanity as small or young. They were the mystery behind the maps, the shadow behind the Atlas, the secret that terrified the galaxy. Where the Atlas ended, humanity began. And now that beginning had returned, carrying with it both fear and hope. The Horizon's crew knew the choice lay in human hands. The galaxy could tremble or it could stand together. The final secret was not in the maps or the Guardians, but in what humanity would choose to become.